We'll go straight into the speakers. Our first speaker for today is Linet Kwamboka, and I'll just go through her bio. Linet is the founder and CEO of Data Science Limited, a software engineering company focused on creating intelligent information systems for data analytics, aggregation, and collection. She is on the forefront of coordinating the Kenya Open Data for the government of Kenya, recently recognized as a finalist Global Open Data Champion by the ODI Bloomberg Open Data Awards, and previously at the World Bank for the World Bank Sport Award recipient. Linet has been a software engineer at Carnegie Mellon University, Pittsburgh, and she has an undergraduate degree in computer science from the University of Nairobi, with a keen focus on the awareness of using data for business intelligence, decision making, and resource allocation. She is a recognized unsung hero by the American Embassy in Kenya in her efforts to encourage more women into the technology and computing space. So can we put our hands together for
Thank you very much. It's always amazing to hear someone read us with that. Good evening, everyone. As you've heard, my name is Linet Kwamboka. I don't know if there's any more to say after that, but I also feel that I'm under a lot of pressure to make sure that I create a very good first impression and to outdo all my fellow speakers. So I hope they're not here, and if they are, I don't know where to start. I think mine is a complex but very simple story about how I started, where I started, and where I am today. I'm the last born child of a family of 8 children, 5 girls and 3 boys. I was born in the village, very proud, Nyamira County. My parents were both teachers, but my mom opted for the stay-at-home business, which meant she was taking care of 8 children. But my mom started her business when she was 27. I think she had 3 children at that point. Today she has 2 branches. She runs a butter shop. And I grew up in a family where I saw a very strong woman taking care of 8 children, running a business, doing farming, employing people. I grew up in a place where I had an auntie who wanted me to become a nun because she was a nun, and she drove a Land Rover 110, not the one everyone likes. So I was very young when I saw a lot of these things back in the village. I, went to primary school. My friend Marie, I put her in the sports, and I used to have this thing where we say, "Sisi watoto wa DEB." You know what DEB is? District Education Board Schools. We grew up in, at least I don't know about her, but I grew up in that system. I went to Nyamira DEB Primary School. And then I went to high school, then I went to college, and I remember the first very strong, interesting woman that I met that actually changed my life. I'm putting someone else on the spot here, was Juliana Rotich, that I met when I was in college, in my final year. And I started to see the possibilities of being a woman, really, and just being able to do things. So it wasn't, I like to say mine is not very special. So it wasn't a very, started from the bottom now here. It was a very, I grew up seeing strong women, so I thought, why not? So, people ask, so how did you decide to start a business? I was like, I didn't quite decide. It was kind of made for me. I saw my mother doing that and technically making a lot more money than my dad. So for me, it was really, I grew up seeing possibilities in women doing things. So I never had that challenge of, I'm a woman, it's going to be hard, it's going to be this or that. As you've heard, my background is in software engineering and computer science, although I haven't written code in a while. A while is 1 year. And I've had opportunities, I went to Pittsburgh, Carnegie Mellon University, which is one of the best, software engineering universities in the world. And I did really amazing things. And I come back home and I look at it and I say, I want to start a business. And sometimes I say it's unfair for me to say, you should go ahead and start a business, because I say I'm the last born in a family of 8. So I told my siblings, if anything goes wrong, I'll come, live in your house. So, but I also had a challenge for myself. When I got back from the States, there was a lot of pressure for me to go back to school. And I said, I'm not a very good student. I'm an average student normally, but I don't do very well in exams. I don't do very well when I'm being examined. So I said, I either go to school or I start a business. And I said, if I start a business, I have to make sure it works. If it doesn't work, I have to go to school. So every time I felt like it was not working, I had to work really hard because I was not going back to school. Early this year, I started feeling like, okay, it's been real school thoughts. I am possibly never coming back to school. Now I have to grow a business, so I run a company. I started Data Science Limited in 2013, and the inspiration was really, I've worked for the World Bank, did ICT, GIS, data projects for them. I've worked for the government of Kenya. I still do. I'm the project coordinator for the Kenya Open Data Initiative, if you've heard of that. I still actually do work for the World Bank right now. And for me, it was, when I just got back, I had interesting offers from interesting, very big companies to go and help them do the information systems. And I had 3 very amazing offers. And these offers to me came in the form of, here's the job description, here's how much we'll pay you, when can you start? I like to say I have actually never been interviewed. And I have been working since I was 17. So for me, it was almost like it was handed to me, and I say, I can take that and do it. I can choose Google over IBM, or something else over IBM or Google, or something else over this, and then the other people are going to hate me because I know them. So what if I start a company? No one can fault me for that. Then maybe I can work with these guys. And somehow along the way, I've managed to be able to convert them at some level into clients or partners. One of the things that we like to talk about is our failures and our challenges. And I'm listening to a very interesting podcast that I'm sending to a lot of people now. It's called Freakonomics. My aspirations in life, as of 2 weeks ago, is to become an economist. And there's one thing they were talking about this morning, about this guy who won the challenge of eating hot dogs. So he ate the most number of hot dogs in the least number of time. I think it was like 50 hot dogs in a minute or something like that. And they said something quite interesting about him. And they said the record before that was 25 hot dogs, yeah? But he ate 50. And, so the podcast guy is called Stephen Dubner. And he said, if he had concentrated about the 25, that was the last record, he would have probably ate 28. He's like, I'm past the record, I'm just going to eat 2 more and I'm good, right? But he did not think about that. So I like to not think about the challenges. Every time people ask me, so what challenges do you face as a woman in technology? I say, let me tell you about my successes instead. I don't want to talk about the challenges. There's many challenges. I don't know how this sounds with the theme of today, but I'm going to say that I feel like sometimes we focus a lot more on failure. So what's your failure in starting a company? If you meet me and the first thing I'm telling you is about failure in running a software engineering or data analytics company, and if you wanted to start that, then I'm telling you, oh, you know what, clients don't pay. Or sometimes you don't get talent, or sometimes you don't get this. I'm kind of grounding you in that. So if you wanted to start, if you wanted to do something, the first thing you think about is clients are not going to pay, so I can't do that. I'll tell you about my successes, and I think I have done pretty well over the past 2 years. We've had the International Trade Center as a client. For me, that was one of those things. I go to the, to my office and I scream a bit and hope everyone else cannot hear me. Don't tell everyone, that's what I do. But I have been able to do, things that for me sometimes I think are ordinary until you meet someone who says, oh my God, you were able to do that. Over the past 2 years, I've been able to meet interesting people. We've been able to do amazing work for amazing people. I'm at a point where I'm invited to speak to you guys. just out of the things that we've done, being recognized by Bloomberg. First of all, when that happened, I was like, oh, that's great. Well, I've been in this open data business for a while, so it's kind of expensive. And then I meet my friend who says, do you know what that means? You need to update your CV now. You need to update your profile. Actually, I think Sylvia will bear witness that I actually sent her second profile after the first one that had that. So I was like, it's not a big deal. It's just, and he said, it's Bloomberg. It's the Open Data Institute. These are the people who are recognizing your work. Do you see what that means? And I said, okay, maybe if you say it's a big deal, it's a big deal. Today, I was gonna leave the office and come here, and then someone, sent me a message and said, oh my God, you're speaking at this event, I would have really wished to come and hear you speak. This is so awesome. So I was under so much pressure to go home and change. Like, it's something. So for me, it's really been, meeting very interesting people. I would say, when I met Juliana many years ago, and I started off at the IHA, really, straight out of high school, college. I start here with many people. We did amazing things. There's the Accurate women who I've worked with before, who do really amazing things. So for me, just going back and looking at those things, then I realize you can do it, really. There's nothing that says you're a woman in technology that you should have these challenges or shouldn't. Challenges are there. One of the, signal me when I can speak all night. Yesterday, the podcast I was listening to, these guys were interviewing the president of Harvard. I didn't even know the president of Harvard was a woman. I was like, yeah, you go women. And he was asking her, so, how is it being the Harvard woman president? And she said, listen, I'm not the Harvard woman president. I am the Harvard president. It's like, yes, ma'am. That's, I like to say a lot of the people I hang out with, and this is a bit personal, are men. For a reason that I'm going to explain. You meet a man and typical Lenin, I'm awesome. I'm good. A man wants something, he's going to tell you. I like to give a silly example of you're all dressed up one morning, you decide to walk by the construction site, and this watchman at the construction site says, Madame Nalona Kapoa. And you're like, really? That shouldn't be coming from you. I was hoping for that other, but a man will always tell you what he thinks. He thinks he's awesome, Lately, I like to say something which is also silly, but which I'll encourage you to say, which is sometimes modesty is for the weak. I know it sounds strong, but I'm just going to say it. We like to downplay the things that we do. We like to downplay our strengths and the things that we are up to. And you meet someone and someone say the problem with the world is that the clever people are not confident and the stupid people are very confident. Yeah? So you meet people who are not doing anything, who are really not doing anything, and they can sell themselves, and you see it and you say, wow. And sometimes you think about the things you've done where you're like, no, I won't even talk about that. It's not good enough. Like, I won't do that. And I will tell you the reason why I have the confidence of saying that is over the past 1 year, when I started talking about the things that I do. I had people introduce me and they talk about the things that I do, and I'm like, are we still talking about me? Oh yeah, I actually maybe did that. And then I realized that whenever people introduce me, I actually get more people contacting me than when I introduce myself. Because when I introduce myself, I'm like, oh, I'm Linet, and I sometimes run this company called Data Science, and so what do you do? But when people introduce me, they're like, okay, stop. So she's Linet, she's done this, she works for the company, she works for the work, she works for this, she runs the company, she employs people, she does this. And I'm like, oh wow, that's actually me. And before you know it, someone's like, we should talk. I think you're interesting, Over the past year, I used to be the very, if I don't know you, I'm not a snob, but I'm maybe not going to speak to you. And lately, I walk up to CEOs and I say, hi, I'm Linet, and I am the CEO of Data Science Limited. CEO to CEO, let's talk. And before you know it, everyone is like, oh, And sometimes you have to name drop. I like to tell my friends, you know, you're in a conversation and people are like, oh, what does she know? And I'm like, you know, when I was at CMU, I'm like, oh, you went to CMU? Let's talk. And unfortunately, sometimes that's just how it happens. So there are things about you, and I find that about women that we actually do not bring out. Talk about your successes. You know, there was this joke on Churchill Live, you won't believe that. And this guy said, the problem with women is you walk up to her and you say, oh my God, you have nice shoes. And she said, well, they sometimes kind of hurt. And I'm like, just say thank you and move on. You know, that's all you needed to say. Sometimes someone compliments what you're good at, and the first thing you look at is fault. You know, I'm not saying that you should gloat and, you know, forget that you have some weakness or something. Just, there's no fault in knowing at the back of your mind that you're teachable, that you're open to learning, and bringing out the best. Sometimes people just want to hang out with success stories. You know, if you're always the one who's complaining, if you're always the one who's like, oh, things don't work out, listen, things don't work out very many times. And I like to say, sometimes, you know, we like to say, oh, everyone should become an entrepreneur. And it's easy for me now to say, not everyone can become an entrepreneur. There's times at 12 a.m., I am up. Yeah, 12 a.m. is really late for me. And I'm thinking, so, you know, how are we going to pay this rent this month? Where are we going to pay the people from? But then I go to the office in the morning, and the first thing I know is I'm grateful for my team, because without them, nothing would be happening. Yeah. This afternoon I was reading something, you know, one of those quotes that says, if you don't build your dreams, you'll help someone else build theirs. And a lot of times it's used to criticize people for not becoming entrepreneurs. I say, not everyone's dream is to become an entrepreneur. Maybe your dream is to just become good at what you are already, you know, now. So go ahead and do that. There's nothing that stops you. So my story is just that, you know. I don't think, you know, sometimes when I say, and I grew up in the village, and a lot of people will be like, oh my God, yours is a really good success story. I'm like, no, you tell that to my parents, and they're like, we have 7 others. She's not that special. You know, there are times I would call my dad and be like, I was in the newspaper. The latest one happened in April of this year, and I drove down all the way. It was like a 5-hour drive, and I was like, on Saturday morning, I'll buy 2, you know, copies of the newspaper, and then I opened them in front of my dad. And I was so proud. Oh my God, Dad, see, you know, I'm on the papers. And he's like, huh, that's great. So what are we doing today? I'm like, really? I came all the way, you know. I am here and I'm on the papers, but so sometimes, you know, you look at things like those for me, and I never let the fact that I grew up in a different circumstance than my friends hinder me, really. You know, whenever people talk about their very amazing Alliance High School experience, their very amazing Precious Blood experience, I say, well, you know, I used to be very good in tennis in high school. I was actually Kenya 3 at a point, like, beat that, you know. So I would say let's not use our backgrounds against ourselves. Let's not use, I'm a woman, you know. There was this campaign by Nike, it was, you know, where they had these kids who said, you know, what does it mean when you say kick like a woman or like a girl, you hit like a girl? And I said, growing up, my mom used to say sit like a girl. And what she meant is, you're a girl, you should be better than that, you know. When someone told me like a girl, for me it meant I'm giving myself ordinary when I should be super ordinary. So I have just never looked at things from a very challenging point of view. And when I look at people and the people that I meet, that's what they tell me. My friends, generally, we don't talk about the challenges, we talk about successes and how to move. And I have found that that changes a lot of things. The final thing I would say is, I think 2 years ago, in 2013, there was an event in this same room, and I was asked to speak. And I remember I was doing an experiment at that point on how the negative and the positive actually affect the way we think. And during that time, so I took out 3 girls, and I told them 3 stories. I said to one, There's this girl who's 26. She works at Safaricom. She's just been promoted to become a manager. And at that time, I won't reveal my age. And I said, so I told the three that, and to one I said, go think about it and I'll give you 3 minutes to tell me about that girl. Who is she? What does she do? What do you think her background is? No. To one, I said, really? She's 26 and she just became a manager? You know, girls these days do all sorts of crazy things to get ahead. You know, anyway, you go think about that. You have 3 minutes to tell me about this girl. And to the other, I said, women these days are ambitious. You know, they are successful. They finish school and they do all these things. So I don't think it's impossible, really, for a woman at 26 to become a manager. It's not something so tough. Anyway, you go think about that. So they each had 3 minutes. And the one I did not influence at all came back and said, yeah, I think this woman is really ambitious. She's, you know, she might be a loner, but she's worked really hard. She was probably, you know, the very smart girls in school. The one I told, really? You think so? And she came in and she said, I think she slept with someone. I think she definitely did, you know, something. I mean, at 26, no, there's no way. The one I influenced positively came in and said, you know, she's ambitious. There's nothing wrong with that. She's very good. She must be really smart. In fact, in 2 years, I think she's going to make senior management. So that is what those things do to us. When we focus on the failures and the challenges, and they ground us into a point where we might not be able to stand up, and we need to stand up. So as a woman in technology, for me, what it is try and focus on the success. Try and look at, you know, I had 4 years where each year I would pick a woman I wanted to be like. So that year, I would stalk them, I would read about them, I would, you know, meet the people I've seen them meet. I would do all those things. And that actually ended last year. And out of all that, I learned that these people do these things because they focus on what they can do, not the limitations that they have. So my challenge to you is focus on what you can do, not the limitations. It's not worth it. Thank you.